Welcome to Virtually Amazing, the podcast for virtual assistants with me, Shelley Fishel of Tomorrow's VA and Joe Brianti of JLB Business Consulting. Each week we chat with amazing guest experts, all aimed at helping you grow your VA business. So sit back, grab a cuppa and tune in for a fun-filled episode. Welcome everyone back to Virtually Amazing, and this week we are back to normal, whatever normal is, Joe.
Yes, you're back in Israel. I'm still in London. So, yeah, it's kind of normal.
Kind of normal. Back to, we were in Florida for 3 weeks. So the last couple of episodes we recorded while I was out there, which was lovely. But it is nice to be back in my own environment. And we've been back we landed back last Wednesday morning. Today's Thursday, the 4th of November. So I think it's safe to say I'm more or less back in the same time zone now, because I had a 7-hour time lag. The US is 7 hours behind me here. So that's quite a lot of jet lag too. The first few days were just pretty horrid. So that was that. But it's good to be back. So what have you been up to since we last spoke?
My children had their COVID vaccine. And the following day, I had a call from the school. Could you come and pick one up? Because there was nothing significant, nothing major, but he was just not right. Oh, yeah. He had to be ill. He turned down lunch.
Oh dear.
But the next one came home at the normal time. Neither of them ate any dinner, so I knew that they weren't right. But they made up for it the next morning by eating the equivalent of 3 meals in one breakfast, and off they went again. So it's just that minor, and both of them complained about pain in their arms, so that's all done. And I'm looking forward to going away on Sunday for a few days. So yes, lots and lots of exciting things.
Excellent. So we had a great trip to Florida with, the best part obviously was seeing Elizabeth, our daughter, and son-in-law Ruben, and the 2 kids, Rosie and Max, who were just a delight. We helped them move into their house where they're renting for the next year, hopefully at least a year, because they moved. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but I know Joe and I have talked about it. Elizabeth and Ruben had to move 3 or 4 times within the last 4 months with 2 small children and all their stuff. So their stuff was in storage. So they finally got all their stuff from New York out of storage, and it's all unpacked. And we were there to help, which was really good. Really good. So we had a really great time, and we managed to take a day out in the middle, an overnight, and we went to the Kennedy Space Center, which was just stunning. Then the first week when we were jet lagged from arriving, we did a day in Miami itself, which we've done before. We went on a boat ride round the bay. So you go in this boat ride and you see where all the rich and famous live on this little island, which is just off Miami. You can't imagine these houses, just can't imagine them. People like Shakira lived there, and Al Capone had a villa there, and all sorts of people like that. So you go on this boat and the sun was shining. It was just idyllic, and it was just a really nice thing to do. And then we went and we had a wander around Miami Art Deco area. Oh. So there is a square mile. I think it's not even a square mile, but it's an area that is all Art Deco, the main road, all the buildings. And it's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Although quite sad at the moment because a lot of the hotels are not working, or like everywhere in the world, there's been suffered from the pandemic. But it was still nice. We had a cocktail and we wandered around, and it was just really nice. And then I forgot to put my phone on silent, listeners. It keeps beeping me. So let me do that right now. It's not going to beep again. So that was really lovely. But the best bit was obviously spending time with the kids. So that was just lovely. And then we got back, and then of course in the middle week, while we were there, I more or less worked, I think, every day. More or less, because we had 2 days where we recorded podcast episodes, and I delivered training on 2 of the other days as well. So I hired a Regis office for each of those sessions, which worked really well. And when we go back next year, because we will be going back, please God, we'll go back once a year at least to see them, because it's not a journey that my daughter and son-in-law can undertake with 2 small children. It's a 13-hour flight. And the idea of going on a plane with 2 little ones for that length of time doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
I take it they wouldn't sleep.
Well, they might sleep, but they'd be completely out of sorts, and then there'd be a whole day behind themselves.
Yeah.
So when they got here, they'd be the night before, so they'd be ready to go to sleep. The journey here also, we left there at 12 o'clock lunchtime, so we arrived at 7 a.m. the next morning in Israel, but on our body clocks it was still midnight the night before. So the idea of 2 tiny ones doing that, just kind of, you couldn't cope with it. Anyway, so we're plotting when we can fit in a trip.
Oh, steady on.
Steady on. You know, we travel a lot, but we never go on holiday, Joe. So you know, we only ever travel at the moment to see our kids, because we have 3 children in 3 different countries. So that's what we do. But yeah, so that was the best bit, was seeing them, because I always say to people, what was the best bit? So well, the pictures of you and your grandchildren were just very, very lovely that you posted. So it looked like you had a wonderful time. Yeah, I did. We both did. Anyway, back on to what's on the menu for today. Today we're going to be talking to Claire Lockey. And I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we'll see what we're going to chat about. It's going to be fun. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome back, listeners. And we've now been joined by the wonderful Claire Lockey. And I don't know about anybody else, but Claire, I do apologize because I keep wanting to say Lockley, and I don't know why. I keep wanting to put an L in there.
Everybody does, yeah, it's that invisible L.
That invisible L. Anyway, but it's Claire Lockey. So Claire, welcome very much to Virtually Amazing, the podcast. And I'd love you to tell our listeners who you are and what your business journey has been. Where did you kind of start from, and what do you do now?
Brilliant. So hello everybody, hi listeners, my name's Claire Lockey, and I am a content strategy coach and mentor for predominantly virtual assistants these days, but I did start off as a VA 4.5 years ago. I started my business. I was working part-time as a careers advisor in a university. Prior to that, I had qualified and worked as a VA for lots of years, and then I'd moved into careers advice. And my little boy was only 2, so I was working part-time in a university. And then I had always wanted to be self-employed. My parents had both been self-employed my whole life, and it was always something that I knew that I would do. I just thought it would be in hospitality, because we grew up in the restaurant business. And where I was working at the time was part of an innovation centre for startups. And I'd had this idea of a virtual assistant kind of business, and I kind of found a client by accident, and it spurred me to register the business really and get started. And it was only ever going to be sort of a side hustle kind of thing, and I did that. I registered in the June, and then by the November I'd matched what I was earning in my job.
Wow.
And I kind of got to the point where I was now working 18 hours there, and I was kind of doing, this on the side. And my little boy was only 2, and I kind of said to my husband, I've got to make a decision here. I've got to decide whether I'm going to back myself and whether this is a viable business that I'm going to commit to and grow, or is this only ever going to be a side hustle? And absolutely, there was no question. I handed in my notice. I've always felt like a square peg in a round hole in jobs, from being made redundant, and kind of careers is quite it's government contracts and things like that, so they're only ever 12 or 18 months, and I was just so fed up of this short-term moving, having to start, and it's a lot. And I never felt like I was fulfilling my potential. I never felt that I was valued. I never felt that I was giving everything that I had to give, and this opportunity, it was too good to miss. So I quit, and then that would be probably 4 years ago around now, that I gave him my notice. So I continued as a general admin VA, as you do when you start out, anything and everything. Can I do it? Yes, absolutely. My ideal client was alive and would pay me. That was pretty much the only criteria I had at that point. And I did a bit of everything, and spent those kind of first 12 months finding my feet and sort of deciding. And I got to the point where I was working about 50 hours a week, and my little boy was still only small at this point. He still wasn't in school. He was only 3. I was working 50 hours a week, you know, sort of ranging between 15 to 20 pounds an hour. And I kind of got to breaking point, and I said to my husband again, I've got to make a decision. I've got to decide. I could go to work, you know, and earn more than this and work fewer hours. Is that what I want to do? And it wasn't at all what I wanted to do. I loved the business, but I realized I needed to start getting a little bit more savvy and a little bit more strategic about how I was running it. You know, if I was going to make this into a serious, profitable business, that the only person that could do that was me. You know, nobody was going to do it for me, that you haven't got a supervisor kind of cheering you along. You haven't got somebody to tell you what your targets are. You have to be the person to set those, and you have to be the person to motivate yourself to do it. So the way that I did that, I started to kind of package up, and I started to increase my prices, and I started to drop retainers and things like that. And then I'm a Canva certified creative and a Canva creator now. And I loved Canva, and I was very slowly kind of finding my niche, which was in working with female coaches in development of digital resources and assets. So whether that was the courses, because of my career's background, you know, I've a lot of experience in writing courses and creating training and things like that. I've written accredited training for colleges and things like that. So I really started to kind of hone my skills and what I enjoyed doing, and very naturally what was lighting me up and what I was getting the best feedback from. And the business then in 2019 transitioned into what became the content stylist. And I focused on content. So this is where the content kind of strategy started. And that, I realized very quickly that I had so much more than just design to give, you know, just making things look pretty. The thing that really lit me up was the strategy and the helping women get ideas out of their heads into tangible assets that they could sell and grow their business and share value, and seeing women be able to do that, and the confidence and, you know, empowerment that gave them empowered me to do more of what I was doing. So I did that. And I kind of, within about 18 months, I halved my working hours and doubled my money, basically.
Wow.
So that was really powerful in moving away from trading time for money, getting off that kind of hamster wheel of time for money, glass ceiling kind of thing. And again, I found my confidence, found my feet, kind of hit a glass ceiling of, right, okay, what's next? You know, where am I going to go from here? And I decided to host a Canva workshop, my first paid webinar. And I did it for £14 a ticket. Last March, it was only last year, 2020, and I had about 13 women sign up, and they all loved it. And it really, again, it ignited my passion for training. And it was at that point that I realized I get so much more enjoyment out of empowering and teaching women how to do it than doing it for them. And that was a real pivotal moment for me. And then, it went from there. I wrote another little 3-part course and did that. And then a couple of ladies reached out to me and said, like, could we work with you on a one-to-one basis, you know? And that was then the move into coaching. And then they kept renewing and asking for more. And it grew from there. And very slowly over the next kind of 6 to 9 months, I let go all of my done for you providers and stepped into a role as a coach and mentor, and that kind of brings us up where we are today. So I support women through one-to-one coaching and mentoring, but I absolutely adore training and writing training and live training. So I've run 7 courses now, written and run 7 courses in the last 18 months, which I've absolutely loved. So that's where I am today.
Wow, very impressive, very impressive, very impressive.
That is some output. 7 courses written and delivered.
A couple of them are repeats. I've run a couple of them twice. So done a couple of hours, but I really love live training. I don't do a huge amount of recorded training because I just love live training. I love that energy. I love the real-time reaction of women going like, oh my God, that's, you know, it's just the way that you say something sometimes is so powerful, and we take that for granted, that actually just sometimes the way you can explain it to somebody is the way that just clicks, you know, in their head, and that's life changing.
What sort of topics are you training people on? I find that really interesting.
So there's a couple of areas. So Canva is a big passion of mine. Obviously, I work really closely with Canva, so I do a lot of training in Canva. But I specialize in organic content strategy. So lead magnets, lead generation, sales funnels, things like sales pages, but then I've done courses it's all around content. It's all based around content strategy. Okay. Yeah, so I've done lead magnets, list and leveling up, which was lead magnet space, content clarity, elevate your brand. So it all kind of moves around those pillars of lead generation, content, alignment, copy. But then I have this wild card, which I think everybody should have a wild card pillar in their business. And mine is skills and development. And that came from wondering how I could bring this passion for training and careers advice, because I love being a careers advisor. It wasn't the careers advice I didn't love. It was all the red tape, that I didn't enjoy, of how I could incorporate that into the business. So yeah, skills and development is a big passion of mine as well.
Okay, so how do you advise, what do you advise people to do in the skills and let's talk about skills and development, which is kind of an area close to my heart, as our listeners will kind of guess, being as that's what I do. I develop your Microsoft Office skills. So what do you advise your coaches, mentees, clients to do with regards to skills and development?
So for me, I'm an avid lifelong learner. I'm doing my master's at the moment in senior leadership. That's because I just love learning. And I have, such a growth mindset in that I think we should always be expanding. But skills for me, it's not so much always about the practical skills, as I find a lot of the women that I work with, they're so skilled, they have so much value, but they find it very hard to connect the pieces of the puzzle together from all of their walks of life, from their corporate careers, from, different things that have happened to them. They can't speak about it in a way that they can't articulate what that means in their business, so there's a difference between being able to say you can do something, but being able to show, and tell people that. So what we work on is really looking at who these women are as people, so it's not just physical skills, it's traits, it's personality, and it's working out what those skills mean in their business, what those skills mean in terms of value and impact that they make, and how that connects with their ideal client on a deeper level. And then that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It transfuses into everything, So I'm very passionate about helping women find this confidence and this self-assurance in who they are and the value that they bring, as a starting point. And then the rest, you can have all the strategy in the world to grow your business, but unless you can tell people what you're good at and why, none of it's going to work. So that's really foundational for me. So it's about looking at your skill set, your physical skills, but it's also looking at your traits and your personality, and crafting and designing a business that is a positive influence on that, and creating environments where you are at your best. So we're not about fitting into boxes here. We're about, if you haven't got a seat at the table, make a new table. So that's what I'm really passionate about, is just helping women to find out who they are, what kind of business they want to design, who they want to be.
Great. Jo, have you got any questions? I feel that there's some questions bubbling up there.
I'm just I think a bit flabbergasted. I kind of, the masters on top of everything else. That's
a 6-year-old. I don't make things easy for myself, but I'm just one of those people that the opportunity came up, and I really believe in fate. I'm a big believer. I was due to do a master's after I graduated when I was 21. I'm 36 now, and I got glandular fever. I got poorly, and I lost my place on the master's course, and I just never got around to it. And then last year, this opportunity just came up. And it's a master's apprenticeship, so I've only paid 5% because it's government funded. And I just think sometimes life serves you things for a reason, and you've just got to make it work. was terrible timing. Just as COVID hit, I've got a 6-year-old, I'm running a full-time business, but you can't look opportunities like that.
No.
You've got to go for it. And it's been one of the best things I've done. It's just, like I say, I'm a real avid lifelong learner. So
it sounds so exciting for somebody who's never even done a degree. You know, a university just wasn't part of my agenda or a possibility. But I am really highly impressed with that, because I think it is just such an exciting thing to do. Really.
It really is. And the apprenticeship is such an exciting element to it, because it's my business, you know, I'm working on it from my business. So it's just up-leveled my learning, you know, my ability, and that impacts the way that I can serve my clients as well, just to a much higher level. And it's helped me be a lot more strategic about my bigger vision, you know, my bigger mission and what I want to do, the impact that I want to make, not just this year, not just next year, but, you know, what's my legacy going to be? Where do I see the business growing? And, you know, I'm really passionate about this as well. Success is very different to everybody, you know, and this is what it's about. It's about designing your version of success, not worrying about what anybody else is doing, you know. What does success look like to you?
Absolutely. So what does you said it was a master's in leadership? Senior leadership. So what was your degree in?
I did history. British history.
That's a bit of a jump, isn't it, from history to leadership?
Absolutely.
How did that come about?
Well, I think obviously, you know, I grew up in very, very rural North Wales when I was, you know, left college at 18, and I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to leave Wales, really. And I, you know, that's the quality of careers advice, you know, 20 years ago. They were just happy I was going to university, and I just kind of picked, what do I really love? I love history, right? I'll go and do a history degree. No idea, didn't want to be a teacher. I knew that. And actually, I find it really funny that I don't enjoy teaching children, but I absolutely love adult education.
I agree with that. Because
I think the experience of teaching somebody with 20 more years life experience is a completely different ball game, you know. And I love that aspect of it, of being able to take that life experience and say, well, what does this mean? How can we utilize this? How can we leverage this? And this again is what I'm super passionate about, is how can we leverage you to the best, you know, degree in your business.
It's really interesting. I prefer teaching adults, mainly because children have no choice but to be in the classroom. And some of them will love to be there. I was one of those nerdy ones that liked being in the classroom, but not everybody is like that. And there's going to be many children that don't want to be in your particular lesson. So when people come on my courses, they've chosen. They haven't been sent. Nobody else has told them to do it. So it's a completely different experience, because they're excited to learn what you're going to teach them. So that's why I always have preferred teaching adults. You know, I get on very well with children, but I wouldn't want to be in a classroom. Also, there's so much red tape in teaching nowadays. You know, my sister's a teacher, my niece is a teacher, my sister-in-law is a teacher. Not for me. I'd love in the classroom.
Real bucket list thing to you know, go back after I've done my master's and to potentially teach, you know, within the university. That's something I've like talking to them about. I'd love to do that, because they do a degree on entrepreneurship, which I'd love I'd love to be involved with. So definitely in the pipeline, I think.
I have to ask, are you still based in North Wales?
No, I'm in Lincoln now.
Right. Whereabouts in North Wales were you?
I grew up in Barmouth, which is
I know Barmouth.
We had a restaurant right at the bottom of the prom. My mum and dad.
Right, okay, I know exactly where you are.
Stayed there for 18 years and left to go to university, and I didn't go back then. Went to Newcastle University, stayed up there. Met my husband when we were he wasn't my husband when we were 23, but met when we were 23, and then we moved to Lincoln for his job. But again, that was very quick. We hadn't been together a year. He got made redundant, and less than 4 weeks from him being made redundant, we moved to Lincoln. I'd never been here, but again, there's this theory called planned happenstance, and it's really, really interesting if you want to Google it, about kind of opportunities only exist for you, and it's kind of this theory of right place, right time. So it's really interesting theory. Google it and have a little look.
I will look at that. That sounds really
interesting.
Sounds super interesting. So what would help our audience the most? What do you think? Have you got like top 3 tips that you could reel off, me putting you on the spot there? So apologies for putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine.
But have you got some top tips that would help our listeners in their skills development journey?
I think so. What I always suggest that my clients do is to kind of conduct like a skills audit of themselves. And I am a big believer in there's no such thing as strengths and weaknesses, as I don't like SWOT analysis, because I don't believe that anything is a strength or a weakness. It's contextual. You know, something that you would consider a weakness in one context could be a strength in another situation or environment. So I don't want, you know, you lovely listeners to think as, you know, you are lacking in areas or you are stronger in areas. It's about knowing what you have to work with and how to best leverage that in your business. So I definitely advise some kind of skills audit. And the way that I do that is, and this again is, when you come out of the corporate world into running your own business, you forget that you get to make the decision. Yes. There are no rules, you know. So this is what happened to me, is you tend to come out as being a VA, and you anything that you can do, you offer, you know, and you go into it, and even if you can't do it, you'll learn how to do it, you know, in your own time. And I get that, and that we all go through that stage, you know, of that learning curve. But it's really important to be very intentional and receptive about the things that you really enjoy doing. You know, take notice of when your energy is lifted. You know, I used to save my Canva stuff to the end, because it was almost like a treat doing it, you know. And I want all of these lovely listeners to be at a point where everything on their to-do list excites them. So I'd kind of really intentionally sit down and take away the fear of money, take away the fear of upsetting clients and things like that. Remove all of that and just look at it very impartially of what do I love doing? Because there is a theory around a flow, being in this state of flow, and the energy that brings. So it's really important, if you can work out what gets you into that place, you can then make sure you're in that place as much as possible, and you can build a business and an environment around that you know enables you to do it. So it's not just your ideal clients, for example, it's not all about them. You know, it's about you. It's about, who do you enjoy working with? Who do you work with better? You know, do you work with people who are similar to you? Do you like working with people who are very different to you? Who brings out the best in you? You know, so this is the thing, we build our businesses with everybody else in mind, and we forget about the person at the heart of it. And you can't pour from an empty cup. You know, the happier you are, the more self-assured you are. Think of you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can't be in that state of esteem or self-actualization without those foundational things of safety, belonging, you know, feeling secure. So we want to work on those basics, and as much as possible create an environment. So work out what you love doing, work out what you save on your to-do list, think about the clients that you love. What is it? What are the commonalities? And that will help you start to realize this niche, realize this area of potential, you know, and do more of the things that you love. For me, I'm an introvert, so I'm what I call like a confident introvert. So I'm okay talking to new people, but I find it quite draining. You know, so I'll do it and I'm fine, but then I need to sit down in a quiet room for an hour and have a little lie down. So I know in my business that I work well when I have a week on coaching and then a week off. So all of my coaching is bi-weekly, and that is as much about it suits my clients as that fills my cup. And it allows me weeks of downtime, weeks to be creative, weeks without pressure of showing up. You know, so it's as much as tapping into how you know you work best as it is working for your clients. So that's a really, really great insight, Claire. I love that. I often describe myself as an introverted or an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert, one or the other. Again, as a trainer, I show up, I have a big personality in the training room or on a webinar, do really well, but then afterwards, I just need space. Yeah.
In fact, we were in Miami recently, and we took a day out. We went to the Kennedy Space Center. I'll just digress a little, and we went in the shop, as you do, and all these places, don't you? You have to go in the shop. And I wanted to buy some. I really did want to buy something. My mind was blown by Kennedy Space Center. It was amazing, absolutely incredible. If you get the opportunity to go to any space center,
I'd love to.
Just what they did was just mind blowing. Anyway, in the shop they had these insulated cups. You know, the ones you take your coffee around with you.
Yeah.
And I bought the one that said on it, "I need my space."
Yeah.
So that completely resonates with me. So that was your first tip, to kind of work out what you love and how you can be in the flow. Have you got any other nuggets to share?
I'd say I am not a big fan, and these are things that I've started working on. And again, I think this comes with confidence and self-assurance of, I shared a post about this a couple of weeks ago of I never used to know what I actually thought about things, like what I thought about things, because I'd be so influenced and so, overwhelmed with all this messaging around me. And recently, over the last year or so, I've really started to think about the terminology around us that we surround ourselves in. And one phrase that in particular stuck out to me was know your worth. Charge your worth in particular. I totally agree with knowing your worth. I don't agree with charging your worth, because I don't understand how you can put a price on your worth. The other thing is, this is probably a great nugget of advice, is the important thing to remember is your value and your skills are not conditional. Okay, so if somebody says no to you, or somebody says it's too expensive, or you see something, the value of your skills doesn't change dependent on, or it's not conditional on what other people think. So that's probably my biggest advice, is to keep reminding yourself that your worth and your value is detached from your business, your personal worth, your personal value. And when you can start to see that detachment, and you can start to feel more assured about who you are and how you want to show up and the business you want to build, and you bring it back to the basics of your mission and your values and how you want to live those through your business and the difference you want to make in the life of the people that you work with, I think it becomes much simpler. So strip out the overwhelm, strip out the things that don't serve you, the social norms, the language, the comparison, get rid of it, and go back inside, turn inward, because you are great. Everybody has greatness in them, but we often lose sight and connection with it ourselves. And then because we're not connected to it, we can't
project it.
We can't help other people connect to it. So we have to be connected. It starts with you, and that's really key, I think.
Wow, amazing, fantastic. Claire, it's been an amazing interview. I can't believe we've been talking for almost half an hour. The time has just completely blown away. That was just insightful. So listeners, all Claire's details will be on the webpage that goes with the podcast, so you'll be able to get in touch with her. And I think I'm going to say highly recommend having a chat with Claire afterwards to help you connect with you to grow your business. I think that's kind of what's come out for me from today's chat.
Can I make 3 recommendations? I've just popped into my mind.
Yes, with pleasure.
Lovely. 3 lovely books I think you should go and read, ladies. Okay. The first one is Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule. Go and read that. It's life-changing. Untamed by Glennon Doyle. An incredible this is all kind of topical to what we've been talking about today, so if you want to do a little bit of reading around these and you want to step into the sort of empowered space, and the other book is Dare to Lead, Brené Brown. They
Brené
are
Brown, she's
really-
brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, I just adore. I said to my tutor, I wish I could do a master's in Brené Brown. I just think she's sensational. She talks a lot about vulnerability and shame and things like that. And yeah, 3 incredible, amazing ladies, 3 books to go and read. So
Okay, great. Jo, I see you making a note there. If you could ping them over to me afterwards, we'll pop them as resources on the webpage.
I've written those down. Yeah.
I didn't have a pen to hand, so I relied on Jo. But there, Claire, thank you very much for coming and joining us on the podcast. This podcast is going to air on where are you? On the 15th of November. So not next Monday, but the following one. So 2 weeks time. And we look forward to listening.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome back, listeners. Wasn't that a fantastic chat we just had there with Claire, Jo?
Yeah, Claire was just so enthusiastic. It's really lovely when you speak to somebody who is clearly so passionate about their subject and their interests, and it's very uplifting and inspiring.
Yeah, it's great to have enthusiasm. That's really important. And that really was the theme of what she was talking about, because if you're enthusiastic or about the things that you do, and you do the things that you really enjoy, that comes across and that helps other people that you work with. So I think that was great. And of course, from my point of view, building your skills, I mean, mine are practical Microsoft Office skills, of course, is definitely something that I would recommend, because when you have better skills, you can get jobs done either to a better standard or faster. Either of those are going to please your clients. If you can do them better, to a better standard, your clients are going to be wowed, and they're going to want more of you, or they're going to recommend you to other people, or they're going to say, no, I don't want to recommend you, I want you all for myself. There's that as well. So, from that point of view, or if you can get them done faster, if you can, although that you won't charge that client more, it means you've now got space in your diary for another client. Because you've freed up some editing, or whatever it might be, branding, wording, spreadsheet work, whatever it is, because you can do it faster. So I definitely think investing in your skills development. Obviously, I'm talking about Microsoft Office, but it could be other skills that you need to invest in. Do any other skills spring to mind?
I think that it's really important, and it's important that when we transition from employee, where we might have had a training budget, or there might have been the in-house workshops or whatever, it's important that you take that ethos with you as a self-employed person, because business doesn't stay still. I mean, I can remember, and I know that you can as well, when we first started with Microsoft 3 and all of those, what we use then is no relation to what we're using now. And you have to keep your skills current to remain viable for potential clients. And it could be Microsoft, it could be email marketing, it could be general administration, and buying courses is absolutely great, but also to support buying courses, read blogs, network with people in your industry and learn from them. How are they doing things? Skills is, it's a whole range of things, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just the practical, click this button, do that. It's definitely how you approach a problem. There are skills in difficult conversation handling, negotiation, all of those things are skills. And we're not born with all of them. So some people are going to be brilliant negotiators and others won't have a clue. I'm a terrible negotiator. I'll just say that up front. My husband hates it when we go shopping, somewhere where you're supposed to barter, because there are places where you're supposed to barter. I'm hopeless. I can't barter for my life.
If we think about this podcast, how many times have we spoken to people like Stephanie William, who extolled the virtues of Canva, while I was just putting my head in my hands thinking, we can't all have the same skills, all to the same level. And, I can kind of scrape through. But if I needed Canva, I'd find somebody who enjoys Canva. And it's, you have to bring your A game if you want to sell me your Canva services.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of what it was about. But it was a fantastic chat.
Yes.
And I hope, listeners, that you have taken away some useful nuggets from that. And coming up over the next few weeks, we've got some real we've got more really wonderful episodes coming up. So do listen in every week and let us know. You can email me, Shelley@tomorrowsva.com or joe@jlbsupportsolutions.co.uk. Please do email us and tell us what you like and what you don't and what you've loved about the podcast. I'd love to know what your favourite episode has been, if you have one, or your top 3, for example, because this helps us with our planning going forward. And we are already have podcasts scheduled for recording that will take us through to February of 2022. And we are now starting to think about what we're going to do from the end of February 2022. So we'd love to get your input on where you'd like this podcast to go. So as I said, all our contact details are on the webpage and you'll be able to get in touch with us. And also do leave us a review. Reviews really help us to promote the podcast to a wider audience. And if you know somebody who'd enjoy it, share it with them. Don't keep it to yourself. So with that in mind, I think as it's 6 o'clock here in Israel, 4 o'clock for you, you can go and have a cup of tea, Joe.
Yes.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm going to go and make supper. So we will love you and leave you till next week. Goodbye for now.
You have been listening to Virtually Amazing, the podcast for virtual assistants with Shelley Fishel and Joe Brianti. We will be back with you again next week with yet another amazing episode. See you then.